Okay, today we're going to talk about real numbers. Um, and let me kind of explain it like this. All right, let's say we've got people. All right, just people. Okay, and there's two types of people. You have teenagers and then everybody else. Okay, now teenagers, all of the students at Mumford High School are teenagers, right? And everybody that plays on Mumford football team go to Mumford High School, and they're teenagers, and they're people. All right? And then the defensive line for the Mumford football team go to Mumford High School, and they're teenagers, and they're people. All right? So everybody in this group is part of this one, this one, this one, and this one. Now, are all teenagers defensive line play on the defensive line for Mumford High School? No. Are all Mumford High School students defensive linemen? No. Are all Mumford football players defensive linemen? No. All right. So, all of these going up are part of the one above it. Going down, you get into separate categories. Okay? So all of these are people. And then over here we have everybody else. Okay? Alright, so real numbers works the same way. Alright? We have rational numbers and we have irrational numbers. So this is kind of like the teenager. And this is like everybody else. Okay? Alright, so let's look at these different categories of numbers. So we have, first we're going to have natural numbers. Alright, when you were about 2 years old, your mama started having you count on your fingers and toes, and you counted 1, 2, 3, 4, on and on. Alright, those are what we call natural numbers. Then when you went to preschool, your teacher there, she added another number that you haven't seen before, a 0. And so she added that to the numbers you knew, 1, 2, 3, 4, your natural numbers. So those all together are called whole numbers. So if you'll notice, the whole numbers include the natural numbers and 0. Alright, so natural numbers are included in the whole numbers. 0's not in a natural number though. Okay, so it's not going down, it's going up. Alright, the next group when you got into middle school, well, probably elementary, about 5th grade, 6th grade, so middle school, you come across a new thing, and it was negative, like -2, -1. We added that to the numbers you already knew, like 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that when you put those all in the group, that group's called integers. Okay, so integers contain your negative numbers plus your whole numbers and your natural numbers. All right, and then rational numbers. You think, well, what else can you have? What about those lovely things that y'all love called fractions? All right, or decimals. Point, like, well, my pen's not working. 0.25, 0.50, 0.33, repeating. Okay, so these fractions or when you divide the top and the bottom into the top, you get a decimal. So those decimals can be repeating or ending. Okay? Now, all of these, let me say, the rational numbers also include your integers, and they also include your whole numbers. Okay, so it's also your -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay? Alright, then we have over here to the other side irrational numbers. Alright, irrational numbers are going to be your never ending decimals. So you're talking about pi. Remember 3.14 ... goes on and on forever. Okay? It doesn't repeat and it doesn't end. Okay? The other numbers that are like that would be square roots, like square root of 2, square root of 3. What about square root of 4? Square root of 4 is 2, isn't it? Which is a natural number. So you have to be careful with your square roots. Don't automatically think that it's irrational, because it could be a perfect square. Like square root of 9, square root of 9, which is 3. Square root of 16 is 4. Square root of 25 is 5. So be careful of those. But any other square roots and pi are going to be your irrational numbers. Alright, so let's try a few of those. So a few examples. If I have, and let's put our categories back down. You have real, and then you have irrational and rational. Now, in most of your math tests, standardized tests, they'll use initials for these, or just one letter for these. For real numbers, they're always going to use an R with like 2 lines here. Irrational, since it's usually pi, they're going to use the letter P. For rational, they're going to use the letter Q. Okay? And then you have integers, and these are those crazy negatives in there, right? So we're going to use the letter Z. And then we have whole numbers. This one makes a little more sense. They use W. And natural, we're going to use the letter N to identify as natural. Okay? So if I gave you the number 30, and I said, what type of number is this? What group or groups does 30 fit in? Well, you say, all right, it's a natural number. Correct. What else is it in? Is it in whole numbers? And remember I said it's everything above it. So it's going to be integers, rational, and real. Okay? You start with its lowest, what it is, and then everything above it. Okay? Alright, what if I have -14? Alright, -14, that's going to be one of those integers, right? So it's going to be a Z and everything above it. So, rational and real. Alright, what about 1/2? Okay, that's going to be a fraction, but it's 1/2 is 0.50. It's a decimal. So it's going to be Q for rational, but it's also real. All of them are real. Alright, what if I have square root of 8? Okay, first you're going to look at it and say, okay, it's the square roots that you're thinking irrational. But I want to make sure it's not a perfect square. And it's not. So this one's going to be irrational, and it's also real. What if I have square root of 144 divided by -3. Okay. Now, remember I said it can't be a perfect square. This is where you need to kind of remember, go back and memorize your perfect squares. 144, square root of 144 is 12. Divided by -3 is -4. So you need to simplify it to its as low as it can go. Alright, so -4 is an integer. It's also rational. And it's also real. And let's do one more. Square root of 17 divided by square root of 17. Okay, square roots. So you're saying it's not a perfect square, and it's a square root, so it must be irrational. But let's look. You got a fraction bar, right? What is 4 over 4? Well, that's 4 divided by 4, which is 1. So if it's the same thing, this divided by this would be 1. So this one's going to be all of them, right? Okay. Make sure you simplify those to get your correct answers. Alright? Let's make sure you memorize these letters. And you've got another assignment after this. Alright. Thanks.